Good morning, YouTube. Star Spangled Clothing here, and this morning we're going to be talking about angle grinders. Alright, so here I have my angle grinder, and primarily angle grinder is going to be used for two different things, metalworking and woodworking. So the less common way to use an angle grinder is actually for woodworking, which is what this disc is here for. It'll take out large amounts of wood, leave swirl marks, etc. But it'll do it fast, it'll do it cheap. I use these to refinish wood floors in houses. It'll take the varnish off the corners probably faster than anything else. I've seen them all the way down in, I think it was 16 grit. This is a 36, so we'll give that a try out on a piece of wood so we have some idea how that works. In the metalworking range, we have a standard grinding wheel. They're 1/4 inch thick. I believe you can buy other thicknesses, but I never have. You have the flap disc style grinding wheel here, which is good for taking off very light amounts of metal, BBs and spatter and that sort of thing. You have a cutting wheel. These definitely come in different thicknesses. This is, let's see here, 4500s. Lastly, you have the wire wheel grinder. There are different ways for the wire to be stuck in there and wound and put in there, but this is the only one that I have. I bought it primarily for taking off paint off of old metal items, but it can also be used for taking off slag and whatnot. Alright, YouTube, now we're going to talk about angle grinder safety. There are going to be several items that you're going to want when you go to use an angle grinder. Not all of them are used all of the time, but some of them you most definitely want to use. One that I don't have on here is a respirator. You definitely want that if you're going to be doing any wood sanding, because there's absolutely nothing to collect the sawdust. And so you're going to be covered in it, the project's going to be covered in it. If it's the house, the entire house is going to be covered in it. For that, I guess you'd say the angle grinders are probably not ideal. Also, you want that if you're going to be doing a whole lot of metal cutoff or grinding due to stuff that is actually used in the wheels. Because a lot of that goes off into the air, actually, as you're using it. Another one is a pair of gloves. If you're not sure about your grinding capabilities, you definitely want to have gloves. You don't want to mess around with... Well, I've had it happen once. When I first started grinding, I hit my hand. I was wearing some gloves, and I hit my hand with the grinding wheel. Had it been my hand, I think I would have had a really bad day. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. If you've been doing it for a while and you're pretty comfortable with your equipment, I would say that that's probably optional. Safety glasses. I've used them without safety glasses. You probably want to use them with safety glasses, though. If I have them, then I always wear them, because basically you have chunks of metal and the grinding wheel flying everywhere. Hearing protection, I call that non-optional. I always have hearing protection. I have hundreds of earplugs, disposable earplugs. I carry them in my truck. I have them in the shop. I have them everywhere, and I try never not to wear those while using an angle grinder. They're extremely loud. The other one that I have is long shirt and pants. I don't typically use those when I'm grinding, but I will say that when I'm using like a wire wheel, you want to wear them probably. At this point, a person would probably also say that instead of safety glasses, you'd wear some sort of face shield. Because I'm not kidding you, those little pieces of wire fly everywhere. And I've actually pulled one out of myself. People that I know actually have the same problem, and they pull them a little bit out everywhere. But they just fling around there, and they stick you just like a freaking needle and hang around in your skin. With all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our project here today. This is not what you'd call an actual project. This is really just for welding practice. I recently bought a new welder and installed it, and I'm kind of getting all the kinks out of it and making sure that it's working proper. So a lot of these welds are 6011 with 7018 over it. Some of them are 2 coats, some of them are 3 coats. Some of them are just 2 coats of 6011, and some of them look better than others. But most of them were welded in position, so I mean like sitting just like this. so you got to give some credit, because I am in fact an amateur welder. So anyway, you'll see we have quite a bit of spatter here. There's still a little bit of slag left in the bead there, so we're going to hit all this up with a wire wheel, get it out of the weld bead. Then we're going to go along there with the flap disc grinder and take off all these BBs and spatter, and then we're probably going to call it good, but just sort of an example of how you do that. Okay, so I'm just getting started with the wire wheel here. As you'll notice, I have it kind of positioned so that way the wheel, the direction of the rotation of the grinder is kind of pulling the grinder away from the work and in a safe direction that'll help prevent kickback if in fact it grabs a hold of the metal, or I jam it in there a little bit too fast or too hard. That's the safest way to use a grinder. I suggest you probably do that. You'll notice that I don't have a guard on my grinder or a support handle. I took those off just as soon as I got that grinder. Everyone I know uses a grinder like that. You'll see it later. I use the grinder to do some cutoff, and really it's hard to safely cut off anything with the guard on there, because that actually causes you to use the front, or I guess the tip of the grinder, which gives you kind of a tendency to go ahead and kick back, and it would take two hands. I don't know. I consider it unsafe. You can do what you want, but at any rate, that's kind of how I do it. I think that's probably all there is to say about angle grinders. Here I am using it on a piece of wood. Typically you wouldn't use it like this, and like I say, I usually just use it for taking off finish. I left a little bit of that raw audio in there so we could hear how loud our angle grinders are, if in fact you're unfamiliar with them. Usually I go ahead and cut the depth of the metal to make it a little bit thinner, and then cut the width. Alright, so here's the finished piece. You can see I kind of beat the crap out of it with my chipping hammer. By either way, I don't really have a chipping hammer. So here it is. Everything's pretty cleaned up. Everything looks pretty good. That's actually the first time I've ever used a flap disc grinding wheel for cleaning up welds, or the spatter alongside of them. That looks pretty good, actually. The 7018 ones obviously look quite a bit better, but there's another 6011 weld. But all in all, they look pretty decent. Quite a bit undercut down here. Like I say, I'm still getting used to the welder, but we'll do a video on the welder later.